The freshly named captain of Australia's rugby league team, set to play the Kiwis in Auckland this month, has been charged for drink driving and speeding. Greg Inglis had a blood alcohol level of 0.085 and was clocked at 10 kilometres over the speed limit last night. The star player has spoken to media this afternoon and says he still wants to stay as captain, but of course that call is out of his hands. We can go now to Channel 9 sports reporter Danny Weidler, who's in Sydney. Thanks for joining us, Danny.
No problem.
Surely Coach Mal Meninga doesn't really have an option here. He sacked Josh Papali last year for the same misdemeanour under his strict disciplinary regime. So what can you see happening?
Look, it's quite an interesting one. I actually thought that Greg Inglis probably should have stood down himself. I thought that would have been the right thing to do, but he came out of his media conference and decided he was going to leave it in the hands of Mal Meninga. The feeling I was getting from those who know Meninga well earlier this morning was that Meninga was going to stand by Inglis. The fact that it's now later in the day and we still haven't heard from Meninga probably lends a little bit of weight to that, that kind of information. By the end of the day, though, I'd find it a little bit troubling if Mal Meninga hadn't decided to, give Greg Inglis a break from that position as captain. I don't think he should probably be sacked for all time, but I just think there's got to be some sort of consequence for his action.
Yes, it would seem so. I mean, that would be terribly inconsistent if he was allowed to play on, particularly as captain. There's been talk that if he is to be replaced, perhaps premiership-winning captain Boyd Cordner could be someone to take his place. He also captained the winning New South Wales Origin side this year, so he's certainly kicked a few goals already.
It's been a fantastic year for Boyd Cordner, and he's the logical choice to take over from Greg Inglis should Mal Meninga decide that Inglis isn't the person to lead his country. Cordner would be very much up to the job. He was terrific for New South Wales in his leadership role, and he also won a competition on Sunday with the Roosters as a co-captain of that club. So he's definitely a player who has the respect of his teammates and is a very strong on-field leader.
Yeah, it was an amazing performance on Sunday night by the Roosters to get. They won the minor premiership, of course, and they followed up with a pretty dominating game against the Melbourne Storm. Obviously, a lot of talk about the heroics of Cooper Cronk during the week, playing with a broken scapula. But another try scorer in that match was Kiwi Joseph Manu. Had a great defensive game as well. He says he wants to take the NRL trophy now through Tokoroa. You're very close to the game and to the authorities there. What do you think his chances are of pulling that one off?
Oh, I think what Joseph should be allowed to do. He's a premiership winner.
Fair enough.
He can do what he like. No, look, I don't know whether he'll be allowed to or not, but it's probably a nice idea. Joey Manu was tremendous for the Roosters, particularly helping to cover for Cooper Cronk. He and Mitch Orbison had a pact before the game to look after Cooper Cronk because they knew that he'd really be struggling with that injury. And they more than made up for any injury that Cronk had with some really, really strong defence, and that was a huge part of why the Roosters won the competition.
Hey, just before you go, Danny, what's your tip for the Kiwis against the Kangaroos in just over a week and a half's time?
Okay, I will say the Kangaroos. Why not?
Yeah, okay. I'll say the Kiwis.
I thought you might.
Hey, thanks for your time, Danny. Great to talk to you. Danny Weidler there, the guru on everything to do with rugby league, based there in Sydney for Channel 9.